Hey, welcome back to Outside Restoration, everybody. My name is Chris. As you could probably tell, it's kind of dark in here. Unfortunately, we suffered some catastrophic damage to the building during a windstorm and took power out. And just because of what happened and everything, it's not going to be an easy fix. Got to set up temporary power somehow. But until I come through that solution, obviously, I'm not really able to work down here. It's probably 30 degrees down here right now, so it's not comfortable at all. And with no electricity, obviously, that kind of sucks. So I was able to get some work done, and that's what this video is about, getting the cooling system going on the motor a little bit further, installing a Revotec fan, and moving down that path. But until we get it figured out in here, that's probably going to be it for a little while. So thanks for watching. Let's get it sorted. Next up, we're going to start piping in the cooling system. First thing you got to do, or the first thing I'm going to do, is the thermostat area and the junction that comes out of the head and goes into the thermostat, into the heater and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to check the temperature sender for the coolant. And I don't, this is what came with the car. It is a Smith's one, it says. So it's original. I don't know if it's original to the car, but it's an original equipment. So I don't really know if it works as far as accuracy goes, but because it's only about 50 degrees in the barn right now, what I can do is kind of just hold it in my hand and take a resistance check, which you can probably barely see here. This ammeters or this voltmeter's about out of batteries, but the display, hopefully you can see it. So I'm just going to hook up the positive to where it'd come out to the car and the ground to the other portion of it, and just hold on to it. And hopefully you can see it's 1.4 ohms, and as my hand warms it up, the current is dropping, or excuse me, not the current, but the resistance is dropping. So as the temperature of this thing rises, it's going more. So it's about 1.3 kilo ohms right now. I let it go, and it slows down, and now it's going back up as it cools off because my hand's off of it. So while, again, it's not conclusive that the thing is accurate, I would say that it works. So this screws in to this portion of the housing here, and you can kind of see that I painted these silver, and that screws in right there. Unfortunately, what I don't have is the little, it's a felt, not felt, but a fiber washer. And unfortunately, I forgot that. So I'm just going to leave that in there for now, and hopefully remember it when I have to come back and actually put the thing in and get that felt piece in there. So you can see it protrudes there into the coolant channel, and that'll check my temperature. So thermostat goes here. This is the portion that connects to the head. I do not have the original style thermostat. I picked up just a regular old thermostat from British Parts Northwest while they were on sale. I don't know if the one that came in the car works or not, and I'm not going to take the chance. I guess I could put it in boiling water, but I'd rather, they're inexpensive enough to just buy another one. I did invest a little bit and got this fail-safe one. I don't know if this is gimmicky or not, but essentially you can go online and watch a video of it. Supposedly what it does, if the thing fails, it won't fail shut, it'll fail open. I think that's how it fails, so that at least you'll get some cooling to the car and not totally cut off the cooling water. Again, I'm not sure if that's gimmicky or not, but that just kind of fits in there. Now, what I didn't want to do is spend the almost $200 that you can pick up an original one, and they're more of like it's large. It kind of whole sleeve kind of moves in and out. And from what I've read, they're really not too bad to replace it with these. You could have some heating problems or overheating problems, but I haven't had any bit of problem with the Spitfire, and I don't really expect to have one here, maybe if I was in a much warmer climate. So we're going to go ahead and got a new gasket. Obviously, we'll go ahead and use my gasket cinch stuff. Since I'm not really worried about oil here, I'm just going to go with the lighter stuff instead of using the Permatex. And then a couple bolts here, and we'll go ahead, and that lid goes on like that. So we're just going to go ahead, take the rheostat out so I get a nice clean surface. This surface here is not painted. I didn't paint the gasket seating surface. Stuff is like rubber cement that you had in grade school. Oop, and I just got it all over the place. So I'm pretty liberal with this stuff. It'll wipe off. Not that big of a deal. Don't really care if I get it in all the holes like it is. I even got it in the coolant channel. So we'll go ahead and drop this guy, or actually the rheostat, thermostat first. Gasket goes over top of that. And we'll apply to the back of this. Again, this is not painted on the seating surface. Hopefully most of this is on camera because I'm only going to do it once. And of course I say that and the battery dies and I'm only going to do it once. But I did only do it once. So those bolts are on there relatively tight. Now I'll bring this over to the car and get it bolted up to the car. Same gasket. I think the parts manual calls out for 2 different gaskets, but I think they only supply the one. It's close enough. And then obviously those 2 bolts over there. So we'll get this over to the car, get that gasketed down and get it tightened up and then check the torque. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. And then we'll move on to actually piping this thing in. So there's the top of the head there. We'll go ahead and paint the gasket cinch on here. Now I tried to, if you can see that, I tried not to paint where I thought the gasket was going to go, and successful on some stuff and not successful on others, but it's close enough. Get the gasket down and paint the bottom of the union here. Not much to that. So now I'll go check torque and get this torque down to the appropriate value. I'll share that with you when I figure it out, and then we'll move on to piping this thing in. Next up, what we'll do here is we're going to run the pipe that comes out of the head here and goes into the water pump housing, and that's going to essentially just makes your loop, because remember the thermostat wouldn't necessarily be open. So this water is going to come out of here, the main water. It's going to go down into a pipe, which I've got a pipe in. The radiator is going to sit right in here somewhere. Going to go through the radiator and circle up into this pipe here. And with that thermostat shut, there's nowhere for it to go. Well, you still want to not to allow some bypass flow through the head. So the water is going to come out of the head, right? You still got to cool the motor, come out of here and go into the water pump here. So it's just going to circulate through. Now I could have my flows directions backwards there. I didn't study before saying all that, but that's essentially what this hose is, allow you to bypass the actual cooling circuit of the motor when it's still cold, and allows the water to flow, obviously, so you don't burn it up. So I invested in silicone hoses. I don't think they're twice as much as regular rubber hoses, but I do have problems on the Spitfire with their hoses that were leaking. And one of the weirdest things I've ever seen is the top hose. You can actually see the coolant seeping through the top hose. It forms like little green dots on it. I have no idea what's going on. But I picked these up from Moss, so that I'll go ahead and put these on. So this is just hose, and it's the old spring type clamps that I like better than the standard American looking clamps. So that just goes on here, and these are formed, so you want to make sure that they go on in the right direction. And I'm not sure that this is the right direction, but this fits better than the other direction did, with no crimps or anything where it looks like it's going to crimp the hose. So I just try to put these clamps in a position that looks okay, and that will also allow me to gain access if I need to get to it in the future for loosening these up. Really little small heads to them. 9/32 is what I've got here. So we're just going to go ahead, tighten these up. Make sure I'm on the hose here. Not going to over tighten these, at least not yet. Just enough to get them cinched up. So now I'm not going to worry about the top hose here because the radiator is obviously not in, but I want to show you that contraption that goes down here, because you've got a hose and a pipe and then a hose. So many moons ago, I bought a Revotec fan kit from Rimmer Brothers back before shipping got crazy. And it comes with essentially everything you need. It goes with the narrow belt kit that I purchased because I'm doing a fan delete for the standard fan. So this kit here is both obviously the fan and then all of the cooling system, because the fan runs off a thermostat. So they give you this inline, essentially, thermostat that will work off of that, and comes with a little relay and everything to kick the fan on and off. I'm not going to worry about any electrical stuff yet, but I do want to get this thing piped in. So The fan itself, I'm going to leave. I'm going to worry about mounting that on the radiator and all that kind of stuff to future me, but I do want to get it piped in. Comes with pretty good instructions and several pages long here and kind of tells you how to do it, but I want to get it over to the car and see if I can follow these. I don't always find out that these are the best, but we'll see if Revotec is any different, and we'll go over and try to get this thing marked in and lined up and installed and all that good stuff. Obviously over at the car here, and first things first is I'm going to get the radiator mounted. So the kit comes with instructions like I showed you, and the pipe that goes from the water pump outlet down to the bottom of the radiator is this guy right here. Now this is, as far as I know, the original pipe, and I don't know if you can see, but there's all sorts of holes in it, so it's pitted and nasty, and I'm not going to be reusing this, but I do have a new stainless steel one that I will eventually paint, but not yet. Of course, being the typical aftermarket parts, the size is not quite the same and the angle's not quite the same, but it should be close enough that I can make adjustments if necessary using the hoses. So you've got one hose that comes out of the top of the water pump, and then the pipe goes in like this with the curve end, which is a shorter end down towards the bottom. And then this line goes like this to come out of the water pump, and then this line goes like this to go right into the radiator. These hoses are the same, both top and bottom, so that's all single part number. I got silicone hoses, just decided to spend the extra money on that. But I need to get the height of the radiator set so that it lines up with this upper hose here, because you don't want a big old, torsion on it or whatever. So right now it's quite a bit of distance. So I've got his body spacers. He's about a 1/4 inch thick. These are the body spacers from the Spitfire, and the radiator mounts down here. So I'm going to use those to help me set the height. The problem is, or the challenge is I got to cut this pipe to put the rheostat for the Revotec fan in and get this piped in. So it's about the same diameter, and the instructions, like I said, are pretty good, and it tells you to measure down to like 2.5 inches and then cut this thing. But I want to eyeball it first and take a look and see what I'm looking at before I just go cutting. So we're going to go ahead and kind of dry fit everything and get this this radiator installed and lined up, at least pretty close. My concern is this is not an original TR4 radiator. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's got the long neck on it. So it's probably at least a TR3. It could be a TR2, I guess. It still has the hole in it for the old hand cranks. I don't believe any of the TR4 radiators, except maybe the really, really early ones while they were trying to deplete stock, had the long neck. I may or may not buy a new radiator. I still don't know yet, but I'm concerned slightly that if I do get a new radiator, the dimensions are going to be different a little bit, especially if we go with an aftermarket one. And I could be cutting the one pipe and wasting my time and having to go back and do this again. But that's a chance I'm willing to take to try to get this thing fit up. I definitely will run the car with this radiator, so it's going to be a future me problem anyway. So we'll go ahead and get the radiator installed, and then I come back. All it is 2 bolts that go right through this mounting part onto the chassis there, and then we'll go ahead and get that hose lined up and then see what we're looking at for distances and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be right back when I'm ready to show you that. So this is what we're looking at for the radiator hose. Comes out here and goes down. It's not very exciting. Essentially what the object here is to get this guy mounted and on to the top of that radiator hose. So the instructions tell you to mark out and cut 2.5 inches out of the top pipe. Well, that's exactly how long this is. So this portion, or whatever side I decide to mount it in, probably like this, the hose coming out of the water pump will go up here. And then the hose, they have a little splice hose that comes with the kit, also silicone, which is a nice touch. And the splice hose is going to go from here to where I finish the cut on the down pipe. So instead of cutting off the portion of the pipe here as a test fit, I'm just going to kind of go for it. I'm going to mark 2.5 inches down off of the stainless steel pipe, hack it off. And because I've got an extra length there with the stainless steel pipe, I'm not too worried about making a mistake, because I'll have hopefully enough wiggle room to do it again. So we'll go ahead, mark 2.5 inches off, cut that out, and then deburr it, and then see how it lines up. So that is with 2.5 inches, I should say, cut out of it. And you can see that I'm about the thickness or the width of a pipe away. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more, not that full thickness. Again, like I showed you, the stainless steel pipe is a little bit longer, so I'd expected it not to be perfect. So we'll go ahead and we'll do a couple iterations here. I'll cut off a little bit at a time. And when I finally come back and show you the final thing, I'll let you know about how much pipe I cut off if you have the stainless steel pipe. If you don't, and you're using the original pipe, or you get one and it's exactly the same size as the hose that you pulled out, the pipe that you pulled out, I'd stick with the 2.5 inches. Got that pipe in. It's a pain in the rear. So essentially the bottom hose, I can't get to the clamp that's kind of back behind here where the steering rack mounts up. So I had to put the bottom hose on and get it tight. And then I just ended up putting the whole thing together and just leaving the radiator hose obviously loose and the water pump hose loose. Fished it down through there and got it, but it's in there. It's pipe's probably still just a touch long. I could probably lose another 1/2 inch off of it, but like I said, I don't want to. I'd rather have it a little long right now than a little short in case the radiator changes height and I have to worry about the bottom tube or the dimensions are different or something like that. So I've got the radiator stay rods that are in there. They go to rubber mounts that are inside the cross tube here. I saved all this stuff. The rubber was in good enough shape and I don't think you can get it, or at least not that I could find. So I'm leaving it like that. And mounted the fan on the mounting block so it goes like this. So these, like I said, these feet are gonna come in to the bottom of the radiator and slide in. And these are gonna come up and go in between the radiator stays. I think in between the outside, whatever it fits up size-wise. And then that's gonna rest as close to the radiator as you can get. So it uses lock nuts here and all that, and Allen heads, and they are metric. So it's a 10 millimeter. So just make sure that you, instead of a 3/8, you need or a 7/16, you're better off with a 10 millimeter. Let me rearrange the cameras here. I'll try to put one on the other side, and we'll see if I can't show you how to mount this up real quick. So I mounted the fan with the wire coming out the bottom. I kind of am assuming that that's correct. So we'll go ahead and we'll fish it here in here. Just be careful as you move through that you don't jab these feet into the radiator itself. Might have been better off mounting this to the radar or the radiator first, but you really can't. All right, so there's that. And I'll put looks like the best spot is going to be able to put the radiator stays in between the bracket and the radiator itself. So let me get this started. Up here, you're just in a 5/16 bolt, flat washer, lock washer, nut. Let's get, oh, what was that? No, that was a steering rack bracket. No harm, no foul. All right, I think these are 3/4 inch, but it seems to be fitting. I don't know how much thread protrusion I'm going to have. You might have to move up to a 1-inch bolt up here because the bracket for the fan is pretty beefy. And obviously, if anything's bent or off or something, you could potentially have issues here. I don't even know if I'm going to get this one started. Yeah, I'm going to have to move up to 1-inch bolts here. So let me grab them. I'll be right back. All right, so we got those started. Now we'll go ahead and we'll loosen up the brackets here with my 9/16 socket. And this is going to lift the radiator a bit, obviously. The thickness of this bracket, which is what, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so. It's not very thick, but that'll help out because the top hose is probably a little low. Now I am fighting the hoses here. These might have to come all the way out, unfortunately. All right, I'm gonna have to pull these bolts out all the way. I didn't really want to do that, but that's the only way they're coming apart. The issue is I've got rubber washers under there to try to provide some vibration, but it doesn't really seem to care. All right, so I got those brackets fully seated. I'll try to sneak the rubber washer underneath here. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, and the spacer. Rubber washers, because that's what the workshop manual calls for, but I think I'm going to leave them out, at least for now. All right, got that one started. Got that one started. Tighten it down. All right, last but not least, we'll go ahead and tighten the stay brackets up here, whatever they're called. All right, and that is that, I guess. So of course we're going to take the 12-volt power supply here real quick and hook it up to the fan and see what kind of air it puts out. So I got it set up here to go. I just connected to the red and the black. I've got the constant power supply down here. I only put it for 5 amps. I didn't look to think to look what this thing was rated at. So I think it's a pusher fan, but it might be a puller fan. So if it's going to pull, it's going to suck through the radiator, obviously. Actually, now that I think about it, I think that's the direction it's going to go. I couldn't find a directional arrow on the fan itself, which I'm kind of used to seeing. But so I've got the instructions for the alternator conversion here, and I'm just going to kind of hold it up and see how much it takes. But we'll go ahead and hit the output button on the power supply. I'm sure you'll be able to hear it, and on the one camera probably be able to see it, and we'll see how much suction it has here. All right, so that's not incredibly loud, but it's a good, oh yeah. So that obviously pulls some air. All right, so that's cool. And then obviously it'll work off the rheostat eventually. It's got a relay already built into it, so you don't have to worry about connecting it directly to the electrical system. It allows a relay, so you can have a switch actuated, like a toggle switch when you want the fan on and off, or you can run it off the rheostat, which is what I intend to do. So anyway, that works just fine. So that's the cooling system sorted as far as the mechanical side of it. Obviously I don't have any fluid in it yet, but that should be relatively straightforward. So based where I'm at, I think that's it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. Now the guts of the cooling system are in, the majority of the work there. So next up is either going to be the oil or the exhaust or the fuel system, carburetors and everything. So we'll see where we get to. Thanks again for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.